windblown-ish hair today. It was quite windy here in upstate New York. We got that one storm thing happening here, so we get where we get tonight. So anyway, tonight I thought we're going to do something slightly different as a topic, because I realized that we actually had caught up all the old shows that had been lost via the archives originally. So Katie, who is the head of the Soma Fusion that I get broadcast through, kind of corrected me. I thought it was actually March of last year, and it was actually February. So we got ahead of ourselves there. So we're all caught up now. So I randomly picked a topic last night. So we're going to talk about King Arthur's world tonight, some kind of history behind it, and clear up some of the misideas about it, I guess, in addition to the path it took in modern history in the 21st century. It continues through all kinds of different media sources, movies, TV shows, you name it. So it still is everywhere. So if you see me looking off to the side, I monitor the chat in my Facebook group, where most people come in and comment. All comments show up there, but at the same time, that's where most of my members watch from. So just easier for everybody. Hi, Miss Sandy. How are you, beautiful? So that's what we're going to do tonight. And then we're going to throw around some ideas at the end of the show. And beautiful Tanya, how are you, sister? Well, I hope. So yeah, King Arthur's world tonight. Kind of a divergence for us, right? We don't tend to do too much of, well, no, I won't say historical nature, because we certainly have covered those types of things. But this is, I don't know what the word I want to use is, broader than that, I guess. We'll get into it. You'll find out. It's not going to be a super long show tonight, but no, I am not liking this weather either. They keep changing how much we're supposed to get here. The most recent I heard was 5 to 8, up to 3 inches per hour of snow. So we'll see. Hopefully it's kind of, the lower end, but it already has been raining, and then it's supposed to, as the temperature drops, switch over, of course. So yeah. Welcome to spring. Not. Someone asked me today, isn't this really late in a season for something like this? I said, are you not from this area of central upstate New York? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, well then if you think back over the years, it's not uncommon to get something in late April, even into May. At times we've had storms in May. It's like one last hurrah that winter gives before giving over to spring. Hey, Kim. Yeah, our mix isn't supposed to, well, it might have started now, but Chris, you made it. Darling, does that mean we have the phone issue fixed? Hopefully, fingers crossed. I would love it if it is. I'd love to hear that if it is. I saw you, commenting on some things earlier, but did not have the opportunity to respond back, as it was an on the run kind of day. You did, yay. Well, you'll be happy to know I reserved the one topic we have not caught up from the archives I saved for you to keep my word, was the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So we can throw that out there for next week as a topic possibility, or, cover sometime in the near future. Okay, Tanya, we have missed her. I mean, I've been in communication with her nearly daily via texting, but that's been kind of what she's been limited to. So I'm happy that you're back. So yay. So I'm going to go ahead while everyone else files in and do the sage blessing thing. Get that done. Yeah, I've saved it, Chris. See, I'm a woman of my word. But you know that. Don't get that there. Katie's message after I get done lighting a fire here. No, shit's good. Yep. Yep. All right. So at this stage, I cast a circle of protection around everyone who is watching tonight within the show and the group, or live Facebook, YouTube, wherever. And I may that protect you from any negativity, ill will, or harm, and may that follow you out into your private lives after the show ends, and keep everybody well and safe as well. And also may this apply to anyone who watches the replay afterward. So I will it, so mote it be. Hey, Renee, how's it going? Over there, Berno. Trying not to move my leg because I've got a Marley leaning on me. I'm hoping he stays in through the storm. Hey, Sandy. I'd rather have him inside than out during the storm. I mean, obviously he'd survive, but it's a preference anyway. So what I've decided to do too, just so you guys know, again, if the volume gets wonky during the show, by all means, let me know in chat. And if it happens to, what I'm going to do for next week is download Zoom onto my phone instead and switch places. So I'll keep an eye on chat on my tablet and then use my phone to broadcast on. It'll work, you know. Hey, Nancy and Natalie. Hello, lovey. So just be sure to tell me if it gets wonky. You know, we're hoping that the weather does not have much of an interference too, but if my volume goes down, nobody can hear me, just tell me. And I'll just keep periodically checking it to make sure, you know. So again, forgive the flat wind-blown look, but it is as it is. It was windy today. And I was in and out of it all, well, yeah, most of the afternoon. So, but on the positive front, I saw my hematologist today, and she agreed that I can go out to every 6 months rather than every 3 months to get the blood work follow up to check up on keeping an eye on me from the bone marrow biopsy stuff. So at least I don't have to worry about it every 3 months. So that's a bonus there. Not all of it. I did not have the energy to hit Walmart, and I wanted to get back here in plenty of time to do what I had to get done, but you know, before the show, and have a couple minutes to breathe in between. So I came back. I will say not much different than last time. We don't have all of the results back as they have to send them out. So it could be a couple weeks before they come back, but she said she will translate them because it can be pretty high tech stuff. And most people, she said there are hematologists who don't understand the test or explaining it anyway. So she will send me a message translating it when the results get back in for the other, but everything else kind of stayed the same. So, or no surprises anyway, which, you know, better than being off the charts weird or something. Hey, Marianne. How many we got? We got 9 in here so far. All right, so I will say it's going to be a bit of a shorter show tonight, because you'll understand more once we start getting going with the topic, but it is still very interesting, so I still wanted to cover it anyway. Just a random idea that hit me last night of, oh shoot, I have to do research tonight again. It's been a while. What can I do? And I looked through I have a couple sites that do an A to Z index of all kinds of different topics to choose from, and none of them really jumped out at me. So I said, you know what? Oh, that could be interesting. A little bit different anyway. So, oh, hi, Deb. I miss seeing you. Sorry about that, lady. Of course, we've talked already a few times today, but still, welcome. All right, so tonight I wanted to cover the world of King Arthur. Just, again, something different, you know. And I didn't have you all's input into any ideas, etc., for going into tonight, so I just picked. All right. So I thought I would start out by laying down, as always, the foundation of who King Arthur is supposed to have been. Um, so going back to when all of, well, when he was alleged to be alive and doing his thing, records were kind of sketchy kept back then. It was back prior to the Renaissance era. So even having people who knew how to write was kind of iffy back then. Never mind having them survive up to modern day. So he's a very popular, well-known figure within Britain's history, even bleeding over into the Celts, uh, into the Welsh as well. And he seems to be one of those figures that kind of like a Paul Bunyan, where, with the retelling of the story, some people would add to it, tweak it, make him bigger and more badass than what he may have been. There isn't a lot of argument over saying, well, yeah, he very well could have been a real historical figure, but we just aren't 100% sure on that. But so according to medieval histories and romances, that he led in the defense of Britain against the Saxon invaders back in the late 5th and early 6th century. So we're going back quite a ways there. And again, that's kind of why there isn't much in the way of any written record pertaining to it. Hi, Doreen. Welcome. So the details of his story are really made up mainly of Welsh and English folklore, as well as literary invention. Because again, people add to the stories and elaborate on them to make it, bigger and better. And even story writing back then was still a thing amongst those who could write. And so they would borrow resources from other places to kind of compile things. So he's basically a central figure making up the matter of Britain, is the title. And it's a body of medieval literature and legendary material associated with Great Britain and Brittany, and the legendary kings and heroes associated with it, particularly King Arthur. There is not one canonized Arthurian legend, meaning not one text that is broadly accepted across all boards in modern day or back then. It's not like one. Oh, I thought that motorcycle was the cats are growling at each other. There's not one, like, okay, so for example, King James Bible, that is a canonized version that's been accepted across many different branches of Christianity as the Bible. So there is a one version of Arthurian legend, as it has various additions or subtractions from text to text, including even in addition to all the battles he was supposed to have fought, he also is alleged to have fought different monsters even. So I guess he could also be likened to the figure of Gilgamesh from back in the Anunnaki time frame with Samaria. Similar to that in nature as far as an individual goes, but it evolved into so much more over time. Now, if anybody happened to see the show Reminder Notice, I included the photo of what my favorite King Arthur film was from all the ones I've seen. And it was First Night with a still rather young, but really good looking Richard Gere and Sean Connery. He played King Arthur, which pretty good choice for that. And Richard Gere played Lancelot. And I forget the woman's name who plays Guinevere, but it kind of tells of the story of her and Guinevere and Lancelot's affair, etc. But that kind of the story of them came about later in, I guess we'll call it, romantic period of texts and storytelling. So Lancelot was added into the mix along with the Holy Grail by French writer Chrétien de Troyes. I did look up the pronunciation on that one. He began the genre of Arthurian romance that became an important part of medieval literature. So these stories kind of started diverging not just from King Arthur himself, but to also include the Knights of the Round Table and the Knights Templar, which kind of what were the Knights of the Round Table were the early Knights Templar, basically. So it kind of played into that, but they weren't originally part of the original histories of King Arthur. Yes, Kieran Connery. Yeah, baby. It was a really good movie too. Well done. So this literature thrived really during the the Middle Ages before the Renaissance period. And I just got kicked out of the group. As always, it always happens. I don't know why. It just does. You know what I want to do first before I go back in the chat. So for anyone who may not have seen it, to know what the heck I'm talking about, I'll call up the picture just so I can show it here. So that is the movie photo, as much as you can see it on my phone, of course, but Connery and I think it was Julia Ormond was Guinevere. That's her name. And Richard Gere played Lancelot. So that's a cover for that. Again, that's my favorite representation, but okay, so let me get chat open back up again. There we go. Yes, my favorites as well. Hi, Sue, how are you? So again, this literature about King Arthur really was popular during the Middle Ages before the Renaissance period kicked in. Higher thought came in, all these new ideas and changes started happening, and again, kind of the romance era of things started happening in literature. So back then, originally, it was really more referencing all the huge battles that King Arthur had won, and they kind of filled in a backstory for him along the way, but it didn't really start out that way. So it experienced like a major resurgence actually during the 19th century, and again in the 21st century with films, theater, TV, comics, and other media as well. You kicked yourself out. I get kicked out every time, Sandy, so don't feel bad. So here is some of the stuff that is up for debate. I'm not moving, kitties. Don't worry. You're good. So the debate comes in because, again, so little writing still exists today, going back to the 5th and 6th century. Even archaeologically speaking, there's not a whole lot that survived the Middle Ages. There was actually a dig where they thought that they found Camelot, which was the mystical castle in Avalon where King Arthur's land was. And they thought they found it. And after a whole lot of media and hoopla, in the end, there really wasn't much evidence in support of that being the right place. Then it kind of jumped to, there were some archaeologists who thought it was another nearby location, but by then a lot of people were so disappointed by the first dig that they kind of bailed on the idea. So most archaeologists today say he was a fictional character, he never existed, but there are still some out there who say, well, yeah, there's so many early references to him, he probably was a real character, a real living being, and he was a great leader or warrior, but yes, his story evolved over time. So what is the debate for now is that, again, so much written record doesn't exist from the Middle Ages, and he was made up figure in many places. So many see him as like a savior of early Britain and Welsh tales who fought both human wars and against the monsters as well. My volume might have gone down. Let me check. Yeah, let me up it here for you. Is that better, guys? Like I said, flag me in chat so I can check it, because sometimes, I get rambling and not paying attention. Yep, it's up both. Hopefully that's a little better. So I think there was one tale of him fighting a cat-like monster that had the body of a dog or something, and that he, what was the other one? It was another one of those like hybrid animals. I can't remember the exact details of it, but it was said to be a monster. But most of them were in wars that were supposed to be in defense of Britain mainly, but also again crossing over into the Welsh tales as well as the Celtic tales. So some even kind of see him like a deity of sorts, or a collection of deities from back then, and elevate him to that status. So the earliest account thought to be made up from him, it might have been like a griffin. Yeah, it was some mixed breed animal that was considered a monster that he defeated in some big battle, saving the people and the lands from. But mainly it was just other wars and tales of him, killing. I want to say there was one tale that I read about that he allegedly killed 640 men in one battle. Again, probably kind of a stretch, even if he was an actual figure fighting in that battle. The idea that one person alone could take out that many in one battle is probably kind of sketchy, but it was kind of, like I said, like a Paul Bunyan type of tale, where the more people told it and the wider it spread, the more attributes got attributed to him, his abilities, his powers, his sustainability, his magic he had behind him. Excalibur, we've all heard of Excalibur as well. So, we're going to delve more into Excalibur in a few minutes here. So the earliest account thought to be made up was Geoffrey's Historia Regum Britannia, completed circa 1138, containing the first narrative of Arthur's life. And now there are well over 200 manuscript copies of his Latin works that have survived to modern day. That was around the time of Merlin, was it? Well, Merlin was also an added figure into the later stories of it. Excalibur was his sword. And again, we're going to kind of see how the basic idea of this warrior king in defense of Britain evolved over time into this great figure who is magical, mystical, and amazing, with this utopian society he created and stuff. But much of the added stuff, like Merlin, like the mythology behind his sword, Avalon, even the magicness of his castle, Camelot, and even the Round Table, really, with the knights. Those things kind of got added in down the road. So in this book, again, there was over 200 manuscript copies of his Latin work have survived to modern day, as well as translations into other languages, which is pretty astounding from back in the 1100s. The aforementioned Crete, I can't remember his last name, Detroit, I think it was Detroit. Anyways, he got Merlin too. So he wrote 5 Arthurian romances between the years 1170 to 1190. So again, past the 500, the 5th and 6th centuries would have been, the 600 AD CE to 700 CE. So we're talking a period of a good 300 to 400 years between when he was supposed to have lived, hey Karen, to when these stories came out. A lot of it can be even likened to the stories in the Bible were being written several hundreds of years after they allegedly occurred in some cases. It's kind of the same idea with this stuff. So, and again, Arthurian romances became really popular back in the 1100s, and this guy wrote 5 of them. It not only introduced Lancelot in these stories, but also his adulterous affair with Arthur's queen Guinevere. So let's talk about some of the popularly known components here that most of us, we think are part of the entire myth, but really didn't come about until later years, and some of it still gets added to even today in modern retellings. It's still like popular TV shows in Britain. Even today, they're long running ones, and the movies and things have come out over time throughout the 90s. I think there was a couple in the 80s, and into the early 2000s. So, there was a run of it when it became popular again. But so let's talk about Avalon. Now, Avalon was supposed to be the island, the legendary isle in Arthurian legends, as his home. And it was kind of like a utopia. And it symbolized purity, magic, and abundance. And, we all, of course, long for a place like that. Who doesn't? And those attributes were given to that. But it's only at best guess kind of speculated upon as to where it might have been. They think that they know the lakes that were referenced in the early stories, but again, kind of best guess. But at least what they showed were beautiful. I got to give them that. And it was also said in Avalon to hold healing powers for Arthur as well, so that if he got injured, he could be taken back to Avalon and heal again, and then go back out in defense of his people. Then we have Excalibur. Now, this was the legendary sword in modern day, has been presented as being stuck in a rock, and only the rightful king of Britain would be able to have the power to pull it out of the rock. And it was blessed with magic from Merlin, and it only could be wielded by the rightful king. Now, let's backtrack a bit to what it was actually originally kind of started as in early stories. So it's also sometimes attributed with having magical powers to aid him in battle or help him survive. There are two different accounts of this in a tale by Robert de Boron called Merlin, circa 1200. So again, still we're going back quite a ways. So Arthur got the sword by pulling it out of an anvil that was sitting on a stone in a churchyard. So not stuck in a rock, but an anvil sitting on top of a rock in a churchyard, in the very original story on Christmas Eve. And it was foretold by Merlin as not possible except by the true king, quote unquote. There's also, Marley, you're going to have to wait, dude. Sorry. There's also the figure of the Lady of the Lake. In more modern movies and things of the telling, it does show the Lady of the Lake. I thought Sir Lancelot took the sword out of the stone. No, it was supposed to be King Arthur. Sir Lancelot was the first knight that he had as part of his defenses that went on to be adding to the Round Table, but also had the legendary affair between himself and the Queen Guinevere. So the Lady of the Lake, she, from at least the research I found, is oftentimes given the abilities and powers of like a higher fae being, kind of that mystical, magical, but she lives within the waters of the lake. Dude, you're gonna have to wait. Sorry. Use the litter box. You know how. Yes. Sorry, but not sorry. Sorry, guys. So the Lady of the Lake version appeared much later, from the early 1100s, when a lot of these stories were coming out, past when the origins of when he was supposed to have lived happened. Those started appearing like in the 15th century, so like the 1600s. Many movie versions have both the stone and the Lady of the Lake. Now, in later versions from the 1500s, please be careful over by my rocks or we're going to have words. Sorry. He's standing on my little bench over there. he is mortally wounded in battle, and when it becomes apparent that he's not going to make it, then his most trusted companion, or might have even been Merlin in some cases, end up taking him to the lake, and he tosses a sword to the Lady of the Lake, who keeps it and kind of is the holder of it after that. And then he's returned to Avalon, where he dies. Those are kind of the earliest versions of that. She's not a central figure in most of the Arthurian stories, though. So then we're going to go ahead to Camelot, which is this huge, massive castle that he allegedly lived in Avalon. And King Arthur's castle and the court first appeared in the 12th century of the current era, which would be like the 1300s, in French romances. So it is the symbol of Arthurian world and the capital of his realm. How romantic, right? So it's depicted as standing alongside a river surrounded by plains and forests, and its magnificent cathedral, St. Stephen's, was the cathedral near it. And in the mighty castle stands the round table, which is a powerful symbol of his court in the later stories. Excuse me. So now we're jumping from its origins in Britain all the way over to France, and they're picking up the helm of writing the stories about him. It would have been amazing to see. And again, everybody loves the idea of a utopian society where everyone's equal, everyone has a voice, it's a land of abundance, everybody is plentiful and doesn't go without anything, and has this fearless leader who is respectable, really nice looking, and a great warrior, and supports his people and so forth. Who doesn't want a place like that to be? So you can see where it became popular, and especially in the minds of those fantasizing about distant lands, and when romance novel things started becoming more popular. So it's a powerful symbol of his court and his universe is Camelot Castle, but it's supposed to fall into ruin after King Arthur's death. Again, they thought they found it once, but didn't work out archaeologically. So even now, there's actually even an abandoned amusement park named after Camelot in England. I didn't get to see any pictures of it anywhere because it's now abandoned, but that would have been something to see in its heyday, I'm sure. So let's jump to Guinevere. So she is said to have been Romano and British and Celtic, and the daughter of King, let's see if I can get the right, Leo de Grance of Scotland. She was said to be quite beautiful. That's random, Karen. Are you seeing people panhandling? Just wondering. Can't hear me. Okay. It's up all the way on my end, Nancy. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? Because I am up all the way on my side. Wait a second for you guys to respond. Can everybody hear me okay? Can now. Nothing was off, but might have been a glitchy thing. Okay. Cool. Okay, so she was the daughter of a king of Scotland. Okay, good. And was said to be very lovely and beautiful, etc. And that King Arthur took a great fancy to her because of her beauty and her kind countenance of how she conducted herself and so forth. Your earplug suck, not me. Well, I'm glad I don't suck. Thank you, Marianne. And that once the character of Merlin got added into the stories, he advised King Arthur that she would be unfaithful to him. So he kind of got warned, but King Arthur still said ooh la la about her anyway, went ahead and married her and was madly in love with her. And as a wedding gift, now this is where this comes in, is her father, the King of Scotland, had gifted Arthur the round table as a wedding gift. So this is where the Round Table gets added in for the Knights of the Round Table to start up in stories. But this was the origins of it. It was a wedding present. So her and Lancelot's affair did allegedly, at least in the stories and the telling of it, divided the other knights of the Round Table, and there were many battles that ensued from this between the king and Lancelot. And she went on to return to the king out of, not wanting all this fighting to happen over her. And she knew she screwed up by having an affair with the knight. So, and the thing it's said is that she did deeply love Arthur, but love Lancelot too. So, and romance stories go on to say that King Arthur allegedly went away to battle, leaving the kingdom in command underneath his nephew, whose name was Mordred. And he, as was common back then, family or not, they plot against one another and to take over, overthrow, and all that crap. So the nephew was plotting to take away Camelot and the kingdom of Avalon from King Arthur in his absence, and thought that he would have the right then to marry Guinevere himself for her to be his queen, which she refused to cooperate. And Mordred still wanted her anyway, of course. But, and this is an interesting little addition to history, many of us have heard of the Tower of London, and it's said to be very haunted and all this. There's been many, many stories written about all the different hauntings that take place there. So she allegedly refused to cooperate with Mordred and locked herself in the Tower of London to avoid marrying him. She didn't die there, but it's still bringing that part of history into the storytelling. Yes, Sandy, they did actually. Families fight now, blood families. Yes, they do. And yes, that was the early Knights Templar, came from the Knights of the Round Table. But the Knights of the the Knights Templar were real people, back in the day. However, it's thought that the Knights of the Round Table was a story component that was added to the later mythology of King Arthur and Avalon. But in the storylines of King Arthur, in like the romance tales and stuff, it was that was the early beginnings of the Knights Templar, came from the Knights of the Round Table. So King Arthur left his nephew Mordred in charge of Avalon while he was away on some military campaign, and he was plotting his death. So upon Arthur's return to reclaim his throne, he and his nephew fought hard, and King Arthur killed him, but King Arthur in turn was mortally wounded in those fights, according to the storyline. And after his death, Guinevere, so saddened by both having been an adulterous queen and got caught, after the battle was done and King Arthur had been laid to rest, she allegedly went on to join a covenant. Weird ending for her, I know, and spent her time serving the poor and, in prayer and so forth. But after her death, she was allegedly laid beside King Arthur, as he was one of her true loves. So, to putting the queen into context, many of you have heard of me talk about like the ancient religious texts, like the Bible, the Torah, the Quran. All of those have to be taken into the context of the time frame they were written in, who wrote the stories, what was society like in the time periods that they were written in, who wrote them, how did they view things, how did they view gender roles, etc. So how she's portrayed is a reflection on medieval Europe's views on adultery, where she's ultimately to blame for the downfall of the entire kingdom, but also can kind of note the crossover between her creating the whole downfall of this utopian society to, Eve being responsible for Adam and her getting kicked out of Eden. Kind of the same ideas there. Okay, good night, Mary. And as usual, women then were supposed to have higher morality standards than their married husbands were. It's okay and expected that men would cheat on their wives, but a woman should conduct herself to a higher standard and not be doing those sorts of things. And she got openly busted in it. So, how King Arthur's been kind of portrayed within the media and modern era. So, back in 1981, I remember this coming out when I was a kid. I believe it was on HBO is where I first saw it. Was the film Excalibur, and that was all about claiming of the sword, and Merlin was in it, and all this magical stuff. I don't remember like all of the details of it because I was a kid, but I do remember the movie itself being around. In 1995, there was a Kid in King Arthur's Court, which was kind of like a campy kind of movie done on that. I wasn't impressed by what little I had seen of it. In 1995, the film I used in the show reminder notice, First Night, came out in 1995. 1997, Johnny Misto, Boy Wizard. Never heard of that one, but that's when it was released. In 2001, The Myths of Avalon, which was also a really popular, I want to say it was a mini-series back then. I vaguely remember it. Watched many of the Merlin movies, yeah. And again, that mythology of all of that didn't get added in until much later, from when King Arthur was originally said to exist. If he did, I mean, there's still some existing tapestries from back around the 5th and 6th centuries depicting him in them. They're pretty rough shape by now, of course, but there's a couple of them out there. And so they say, okay, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. And yes, he could have been, at the very least, a strong, powerful warrior at the time, or a ruler of sorts. But as far as having all the rest of it, yeah, that's all been added in detail. Anywhere from a few years later from when he was supposed to have been killed to several centuries, and 1,000 years later, we're still making movies about it. So, it's still a popular idea. So the Myths of Avalon, that came out in 2001. And again, I think it was, if it wasn't a movie or if it wasn't a miniseries, it definitely was a movie. It was like a lot of details and an effort was put into producing that one. I do remember that much. 2004, King Arthur came out. 2007, The Last Legion, which I hadn't heard of. And there are innumerable other TV shows that are out in Britain, even a video game like Camelot 3000, I think it was called, plays, theater stuff, merchandise, etc. It's still like a really popular idea as a place of equality, a utopia of demonstrating chivalry, romance, bravery, magic, adventure, and love. And these ideas have persevered for over a millennia now and are still alive and well today. So do any of you guys have like a favorite from the past 20 years or whatever, in our lifetime anyway, that you had seen that you kind of highlight as your favorite out of all of them? You're gonna have to wait, Marley. I apologize. You can cope with it, I'm pretty sure. Or use a litter box. There are two. But First Night was my favorite. Kind of had all of the elements of the romance, a little bit of humor, had, the bravery, the fighting, the love and scenes and so forth. And Sean Connery and, of course, Richard Gere when he was kind of in his heyday still. I like the new one that's on Netflix. There very well could be one on Netflix. I'd have to look it up. You've never seen any of them. Wow, Sandy. First Night for Chris, too. Marley, good grief. It's okay. You've been in this long. You may as well hang out for a little while longer. So that pretty much does it for the history of it, of King Arthur. Again, I may have to run in there to pop the window open for him because he's kind of getting obnoxious and loud. Yes, Legend with Tim Curry was excellent. I actually have that on VHS, believe it or not. Yeah, he's the only cat I don't ever repeat animal names from one animal to the next. So let me go let him out because he starts sounding like a Siamese, thinking I can't hear him. So I apologize. I will be right back. It's just in the next room. Mr. Obnoxious there. He's dying. All right, dude. You have the patience of a teaspoon, I will tell you. Love you dearly, but you're obnoxious. Oh, someone's out there. That's why you left. Go ahead. I'm in the middle of a show. Sorry. Broadcasting global. Bye. I'm not listening to you yell at me on the air. Sorry. You can't stop me from opening my window. Hopefully you guys weren't listening to that. And if you did, I apologize. Obviously, I didn't listen to it either. Okay. Oh, go ahead and stomp up the stairs. It's fine. Yes, he is. Oh, let him out the back. I'm on air. I don't care. I'll still my window. Anyhow, so any topic ideas that you guys would like to cover for next week? My sinuses are flaring up. Now, oh, good. I'm glad you got to hear that. Yeah, I don't listen to him. I cut him off and I shut the window in his face. I'm not going to be yelled at by him. And that was even nice. And there was a piece of his mail put in my mailbox today. And I could have been passive aggressive and put it back in the mail, writing wrong box or wrong address, and put it back in the mail 40 miles from here. And I opted not to. I thought I'd be mature, more mature than him, and leave it out there for him and just text him and then block him again. So I'm more mature. Well, that is an option, yes, is doing that topic for next week. And my favorite thing about some movies is the ending. Yes, he's always mean anymore. He's very paranoid and he's just nasty, and it's not justified. So if you guys want me to cover that for next week, we can. Like I said, we have done it before, but it's been a while. Let's see. Emerald. And in talking with my dad yesterday, because I was telling him I was in the middle of research, couldn't really have a full conversation with him last night. He said, oh, well, why don't you do the ghosts of the Decatur cemeteries? You used to see them all the time. And I said, well, that would involve me interviewing you. If you're willing, then okay. So I plan on doing that too to get it done. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be done 2 weeks from now, but he is. Yes, very much so. I agree. I don't know what the issue is, but regardless, he's thrown so many accusations at me lately. It's kind of off the wall. But you're very welcome, Sue. So we'll do Emerald Tablet. Oh, sorry, babies. Emerald Tablet next week, and the Tablets of Thoth, which are kind of intertwined anyway. And then I will interview my dad in the interim, and then we'll decide next week when we want to do that show. It sounds interesting anyway. He did give me a little bit of a factoid that Jesse James's mother lived there before, which I didn't know. But I did live in Decatur, Nebraska as a little girl, so we haven't had a good haunted story in a while. And he still lives in that area, so he's a lifer there. Sorry, had to boost you, darling. Okay. So let me just put that I'll interview Dad in the interim for like this, weekend or whatever. Yep. It does keep on giving. Yep, go Big Red and Cornhuskers. So then book group will be on the 21st this week on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, as always. And the next Willow spend then would be next Monday, the 25th, at 8 p.m. also. Yeah, she's a little calico. She thankfully has kind of more rebonded with her mom, but still tends to come up and say hi a couple times a day. So she's was a big girl and mastered the big girl litter box today too, which was kind of funny to watch her climb in and out of it because she kind of half falls either way, but it's a start. So thank you all for coming as always. Lots of love to each and every one of you. I'm sorry it's a bit shorter than normal, but it was an interesting topic to do and to see just how much the story has been added to and branched out from its origins and crossed, many countries, and it's still kind of going strong even today in popularity. So interesting stuff, but she is very sweet. Can we turn you around and show everybody your little face? There she is. The only girl out of the group. Yes, you are cute. So love it to everybody. And yeah, she needed that, Chris, because, she still needed to be nursed and stuff. And I cannot do that. So I'm glad that she kind of joined back to her more. She is adorable. She is. And she knows that she's spoiled. So everyone have a blessed rest of the night. I will see those who are interested Thursday night for book group. And we are still on the Children of the Fifth World currently to finish that up. And then, which we should do this coming week, and then kind of figure out where to go from there. Welcome back, my dear Chris. I'm glad you made it. It's nice to have you back. Yes, that's the plan for tonight. Head to bed early tonight, or at least grab a nap soon anyway. So lots of love, everyone. You guys have a wonderful rest of the night. See if I can balance you. Do the many blessings, as always. Yes, can you do many blessings? Back at them here. Come on, do the kitty blessings. There we go. Well, sort of, kind of. I do too, Nancy. We better not. All right, guys, I love you and have a wonderful rest of the night. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you all soon. Good night, everybody.